Elon Musk just tweeted yes and amplified or retweeted a post that says, President versus Elon, who wins? My money's on Elon. Trump should be impeached and J.D. Vance should replace him. He also retweets his original post saying Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, Donald Trump. Again, as a news organization, we have no evidence of that. But Elon Musk, who just spent a lot of time with him, is making that claim against him. Mara Gay brought us to the point that we are, as a country, as a public, as an electorate, dealing with the insecurities and now malignant social media war between two men. Let me show you what Kara Swisher, who's covered Elon Musk since the beginning, had to say by way of explanation. This is an interview for our new podcast, The Best People. It airs on Monday, but we had some of it ready for this conversation. What is Elon Musk's trauma story?
You know, one of the things I used to say to a lot of people I covered, because you could see that, the trauma, obviously lack of therapy. We would have done very well if he had gone to therapy at one point, but he didn't.
Bad person?
No, he wasn't. I will tell. He definitely had problems from the get with stuff around racism. You know, his family history is really quite fraught. And so I think he had a lot of trauma. And then he was, you know, he has obviously autism issues. And he's a creative person who's very deeply enmeshed in science fiction, whether we're in a simulation or not. Very creative.
Do you think
he
thinks that we're in a simulation?
He told me that as he got more acclaim, as people sucked up to them, as inevitably happens with rich people or famous people, most rich people now, he started to believe his own nonsense and became overly dramatic. At one point, we did an interview where he said, if Tesla doesn't survive, humanity is doomed to me. I think that he started using drugs quite a bit. I think that's been well reported, especially ketamine. And if you've ever taken it, which I did, it's a very disassociative drug.
So you understand the Trump...
Oh, what's he doing with the government?
Yeah,
I think he has a thing in his head that he has this narrative in his head that the government is terrible.
So, Teddy, it's probably not as new to you as it was to me. I was in shock about who he was before Trump welcomed him in. And as Mara's alluding to, gave him the keys to the most impactful elements of our government, all of our personal data, the kinds of things that send a message around the world that America isn't all one thing, our soft power levers, the federal workforce that's been traumatized by design. What is this blistering fight with Donald Trump? How is it likely to end?
We're talking at 425. Let's see where things are at 435. I mean,
exactly.
You know, or 445. I mean, the reality is, you know, in kind of conversations today with some people around him, they're not really sure what his plan is. I mean, I can tell you, you know, Elon Musk has been perturbed by, you know, this budget bill, sure, but he's been perturbed by other things that Trump has done and has not gone public in this kind of ballistic way. So what exactly Elon's plan is something that Elon's own friends are asking one another right now. You know, there's like a nervousness and a sadness that it's come to this. You know, I think the reality is he is motivated by stimuli, and he is upset about things that he is seeing online, and he's upset about some of the ways that Trump treated him on the way out, and he is reacting. There is nothing more complicated or sophisticated beyond that. He is upset and has access to his Twitter account and is making that public. I know that sounds very simple, but that's kind of all it is.
I think we learned for the first time today that, or Trump at least said publicly for the first time today, that he asked Musk to leave. Did we know that it was Trump that asked for his exit?
I mean, it is true that Elon Musk was on a 130-day special government employee tenure, which requires people to leave after 130 days or not become special government employees. It is also true that that is a distinction that federal bureaucrats have gotten around for a while, and you can do some creative accounting to avoid that. I buy that Musk was kind of wearing his welcome fin, and you know, clearly Musk also wanted to get back to his companies, as he said very, very publicly. And, that's why this kind of choreographed rollout was so intentional, where, Musk was doing interviews from SpaceX, and he was doing meetings with Tesla investors in a very public way, because he wanted shareholders to know that he cares about his companies. So I believe all these things were true, that it was good for Trump, it was good for Musk. But, now they can both portray this uncoupling as them firing the other.
Let me show you one more thing that Kara Swisher said about the future of Tesla.
And Musk wants to go to Mars, and he's getting that. That's what he wants. And he really does. And that is, to me, his ultimate goal was that. And to get the regulators off his back. It's Tesla in any way. And that's going to help. Tesla's going down right now.
Do you think so?
Oh, yeah.
And it stops being viable?
Well, I always say the planes are covered with the bodies of pioneers. I mean, they were a true pioneer in the space. I think the reason, even though he blames these protests and this and that and his stupid, I mean, he brought this on himself,
right.
FYI, these protests. So stop blaming the protesters.
Right.
Teddy, is that the sense? I mean, the market certainly seems to agree with Kara Swisher's analysis.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is a company that is in a precarious situation, to say the least, right? I mean, what exactly the future of Tesla is? It is such a company that's been so enraptured in kind of current policy fights. I mean, they obviously were apoplectic during the Biden administration, that they weren't getting the love from a Democratic president that they expected to get from EVs, and then they became linked with this president who doesn't really care for EVs, right? And Frank, in fact, was not including EV subsidies in the big, beautiful bill. So, this is a company that is so kind of dependent on federal government policy. It makes sense that Elon would want to influence it, but where exactly does this company go, given that they've now alienated certainly Democratic voters and maybe Republican voters now?
Angela, I want to come back. My favorite thing you've taught me is narrative dominance. It goes away when a Democrat and a Republican are saying the same thing about you. And so I think the power of and I agree with you at this point, these are just words, but the power of the words that Trump is using against Elon, that he's mad because he didn't get his EV subsidy, is not going to help his brand. Not going to bring anyone back to Tesla, because he destroyed USAID. He seized all of our government data for a tax break. Really? That's not brand enhancing. And on the other side, the narrative dominance relied on nobody piercing Trump's dominance in the bubble. The only person with more dominance in Trump's media ecosystem is actually Elon Musk, who's picking a side. He's picking J.D. Vance, who's as prominent in the fever swamps of right-wing disinformation and conspiracy theories as anyone. And he's not just saying Trump should be impeached. He's saying, and J.D. Vance should be elevated.
Yeah, and I think, I look, even Kara Swisher said it when she was trying to describe, at least in part, to help explain and illustrate how Musk got to where he is that he has a narrative inside of his head that he just can't get unstuck, and he's living his life according to that narrative. But where did he get that from? We got red pilled on social media for years, and a lot of that is poisonous, and that gets to the core part of what you're getting to, which is a few things. One, whatever the outcome is over the long term, one of the things, and I really do think the Epstein thing is the most significant thing that Musk has said so far, because what it does is it puts poison into the system. Amongst Trump's base. That is a soft spot for Trump right now, at least amongst his own supporters. They are mad and feel like he's hiding something. And that goes all the way back to that interview a couple weeks ago that Bongino and Kash Patel did, the FBI director and deputy FBI director, when they said, look, Epstein did kill himself. There's no conspiracy here. People online were furious about that. Trump supporters were mad about that. They turned on Patel and Bongino. It's the same. They want to have an answer. They have a narrative that something really dastardly was done and that there's some shadowy forces covering it up. And the idea that Musk is now linking Trump to those shadowy forces is a very powerful connector to the narrative that a significant portion of his audience has. And there's plenty of other little soft spots too, and he knows where they are. And that's the key here, because if you think about how Trump came to power, that was a big part of how he came to power. He came up and validated a lot of the narrative that a very large part of people believed. And Trump said, yeah, sure, I gave it to both sides, and I didn't pay taxes because I'm smart, and that's what rich people like me do. We screw you. So of course you need to hire me. Fire with fire. I know what's really going on behind the curtain, and I'll expose you all to it. And that's basically what Musk is threatening to do here. Could he ever unseat Trump? No, but what he can do probably is put a lot of poison in the system and take all those fractures and turn them into big fat cracks. And that shouldn't be discounted. And it will shake Trump's support amongst his base. There's no way around that.